Welcome back to episode number something or other.
25.
Ooh, 25. That's sort of a cool number.
I'm glad that you said that because I was going to say something about it, but then I completely forgot.
Cool. Cool.
So it's a quarter of 100.
I know.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, especially for us.
Yep.
We're terrible at things.
Milestone,
Yes.
if you will.
Yes.
Baby milestone.
A little one.
Yeah.
But again, a big one for us.
Big one for us. Well, we're going to do the best we can tonight. It is storming.
Yes.
So the dogs are freaking out. So if you hear our dog whining and pacing in the background, it's because it's thundering.
Yes.
Hopefully we don't lose power because our old house likes to lose power.
We don't really need power for this, though.
No, I guess not. Yeah, because the laptop would have charge on it.
The laptop has charge. Your iPad has charge.
Yeah.
The microphone is hooked up to the iPad.
That's true. So
power's not really a thing right now.
never mind.
I just bit my tongue.
Good job.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that.
So, hopefully I can speak like a normal person.
So you're going to be biting your tongue every day for the next week.
Yeah, because it's going to be swollen.
Gross.
I just pulled 6 plastic dinosaurs out of my bra. Am I allowed to say that on the podcast?
How did they get there?
I didn't have any hands for them when I was in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And they just got washed because they were cupcake toppers.
Oh, the baby's birthday party.
And so I was bringing them with me. And so I just stuck them in my bra. But they were uncomfortable, so.
I was going to say they'd be very pokey.
They're very pokey because they're not like soft plastic. They're like
hard
pokey plastic.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, great. I've been yawning all day, so best of luck to everybody listening to me today.
Yes.
All right. Well, what else is new?
My mental health professionals want me to clean my room, which I'm terrible at.
Yes.
And also say nice things about myself, which I'm also terrible at.
So 2 of the 3 hardest things.
I know.
Because the third one would be, hey, you need to lose some weight.
Yeah. Which is the hardest thing.
Yeah, I know. It's like I keep thinking I'm going to do this. And then by the time, like, I don't know, I lose momentum. I
can't seem to bring myself to exercise.
Well, we went on that one walk around the block the other day.
Yes.
And then we went to Albuquerque the next day.
Yes.
And then I was going to go for a walk yesterday. And then I kind of went, bleh.
I was going to work out today, but I was full and then I didn't.
Yeah, well, and I'm fantastic at making excuses. Because, like, yesterday it was, but I have to start my second part-time job tomorrow and I don't want to, and now I'm sad and I don't want to do it. And then today it was, well, I have to write a podcast episode, so I can't do it today.
Yeah. And
so, who knows?
There's no time for 30 minutes of doing something for your health.
I know, I don't even remember what I was reading it on. Now I'm really like, where did I see that? But it was something about how, like, people will say, well, we all have the same 24 hours. And the person was basically saying, no, we don't, because everybody has different responsibilities and different amounts of responsibilities and different levels of responsibilities and different mental health issues. And
I've heard it put that we're all, like, crossing the same ocean, but we are on different boats.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, you know, there's some people out there who, you know, they go to work in the morning, make $1 million, and then go play golf for the rest of the afternoon, and then go eat, like, $100 steaks in the evenings.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And I feel like I'm the end of the Titanic where Jack is trying to get on the thing with Rose, and basically they're like, oh, sorry, there's no room.
Yeah. Even though it was a giant door and he totally could have fit on there. I've literally never watched that movie, and I will go to the grave never watching that movie. But I have seen, like, memes about that.
Yes. I've never seen it either.
Have you seen the one where they put the cat there where Rose is supposed to be, and the cat's, like, swatting him away?
Yeah. But no, like, I feel like Jack trying to get on the door. That's the boat I have. And Rose is like, sorry, there's no room for you on this door.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, that's kind of how I feel with my 24 hours.
Yep.
But, I make time every once in a while. I was trying to do a 30-day challenge where I worked out every day. And I was doing really well at the beginning, but then life happened. Mm-hmm. And so I got maybe 2 weeks into it before before kittens and things like that. And
yeah. So remember the Fit Girls thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the other day I just randomly was like, is this still a thing?
Yeah.
And they're starting a new challenge on January.
January.
Whew. That's a way long ways away. June 3rd.
June.
Yeah, and I was like, maybe. And so I, found the PDF of the cookbook that we bought, 1,000 years ago. And I was showing some of the recipes to Bear, and he was like, oh, that looks so good. Where is that? It was one of the zucchini boat things or something.
I don't mind the zucchini boats, and I didn't mind the fried rice or, the pita pizzas. But, most of it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. So, I thought maybe I would try it just because he seemed like he was interested in maybe some of the food.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
guess we'll see. It had a lot of bell peppers in their food, and I don't like bell peppers.
I'm sure it's not a requirement to eat bell peppers.
It's a requirement. They said if you don't eat bell peppers, you can't do this.
You won't lose weight if you don't eat bell peppers.
And I was like, fat for life then.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
should we tell the people a story?
I guess we could. All right. So I'm just going to jump on in.
All right. Go forth and jump.
Off the door.
Off the door. Because Rose wouldn't scoot over.
See, that's the thing. Is that, I feel like my boat is that, I keep getting on the door, and then I keep falling off the door.
Yeah.
I finally get up on the door, and then I fall off the door.
Yeah.
And so
I'm hanging onto the edge of the door, and the cat is swatting me off of it.
Yeah. Chunk.
Yeah.
It is not Hazel. Hazel would be like, Mom,
please get on the door with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so anyway. On the afternoon of March 20th, 2004, a Vermont state trooper was dispatched to an abandoned house known as the Dutchburn House on Route 118 in Richford, Vermont, to investigate reports that a car was backed into the house and abandoned. When he arrived, he found a green Oldsmobile literally backed into the side of the house. A piece of plywood that had been used to board up one of the windows had fallen on the off of the house and was resting on the back of the car, and the back tires were kind of up over the foundation of the house.
Okay.
The doors to the car were shut but not locked. The lights were turned off. The officer assumed that the car had been abandoned by a drunk driver, had the car towed to a local garage, did a very minimal amount of investigation that day, and then went about his business.
All right.
So, about this time, you're probably wondering if I've become senile, and I am reporting the same exact story as I did last week.
No.
No? Alright. Doesn't sound familiar to you at all?
I mean, there was an abandoned car, but...
Okay. Well,
I don't think her car was backed into a house.
It wasn't backed into a house, but it was just found randomly on the side of the road. Okay, so... I mean, this happened basically about the same time as Maura Murray. She disappeared 100 miles away just 1 month prior to this. So, among the items found in and around the car were loose change, a water bottle, jewelry, an unsmoked cigarette, and on the passenger seat, 2 uncashed paychecks belonging to someone named Brianna Maitland.
All right.
Rather than run the plates for the car, this trooper went solely off of the paychecks. They had been issued to Brianna by the Black Lantern Inn, a local restaurant approximately a mile from where the car was found. The trooper, who is still unnamed in documents, probably for the stellar exhibition of police work, went by the Black Lantern Inn, found it closed, and basically went about his life.
Yeah.
It seems that his days off followed this, and that he perhaps didn't even think about this case again.
Okay.
And so that's the beginning of nothing good. And so I'm going to back things up, and I'm going to tell you about Brianna Maitland.
Sounds good.
So Brianna was born October 8th, 1986. And I thought this was really weird because Maura was born the same year I was born.
Yeah.
And Brianna was born the same year you were born.
Yeah.
And they both disappeared within, like, weeks of each other in 2004. In, like, the same area.
All right.
Yeah. So, Brianna's parents are Bruce and Kelly Maitland, and she has one older brother named Waylon. She was raised on the family's farm in East Franklin, Vermont, which is, like, spitting distance from the Canadian border. But, like, don't spit at Canada.
No.
They put up enough from United Stations right now. I refuse to call us Americans because everybody in the 2 continents are Americans.
Yes.
So, we're United Stations now.
Stations.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything better. States holes. What do you think?
Statesman?
Statesman? That might be better. Yeah, station sounds like stations.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go to the station.
So, United Statesman?
Yeah, okay, that works. Yeah. So, anyway, this place is, like, incredibly rural. The town is, like, a whole 40 square miles with less than 1,400 people. And this was way too small for Brianna. I mean, it's too small for me.
I know.
During her sophomore year of high school, she transferred from her local high school to Enosburg Falls High School, which is like 7 miles away, to be in a larger high school where her friends attended. I did hear on one podcast that this was partly due to some family strife between Bruce and Kelly, the parents, that the dad wanted to move out and Brianna was going to go with him. I'm not sure if they ever officially moved out and then Bruce moved back, or if they never moved out to begin with and she just went to school at this other school. Yeah. But either way, on her 17th birthday, Brianna decided she was ready to move off the farm. And she was still in school. It was her senior year of high school. And her mom said that there wasn't really any issues or conflicts. Like, they didn't have a fight and she was like, I'm moving out or whatever. She just was sick of living in this isolation. Done. And I saw on one thing where they kind of lived off of the grid. Mm-hmm. They had solar power for, like, their electricity and, like, water wells and stuff. And, like, didn't really rely on, like, modern things.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that solar panels are pretty modern.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, they weren't connected to, like, town electricity or, anything. And her parents, I mean, I haven't really seen her dad, but her mom was on the episode of Disappeared, and, like, she didn't act like they were, like, I don't want to say weirdos. Like, live off the grid, like, like,
unconventional.
Yeah. Like, it didn't seem that way. I think it was just maybe because of how rural it was. Like, that's just how it had to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Brianna, enrolled in another high school that was about 15 miles away to be with another group of friends. I think that she had made plans to live with one friend, but then that didn't work out, and her life got super unstable, and she started couch surfing in various friends' and boyfriends' houses. She eventually dropped out of high school altogether, but at the end of February 2004, Brianna moved in with a childhood friend named Jillian Stout in Sheldon, Vermont, and enrolled in a GED program. She started working 2 jobs, and it seemed like she had kind of found some stability.
Yeah.
And so let's also remember, though, that she was 17. She did not live at home. She was not always hanging out with the best people and not always making the best decisions. And she was still partying some, even if it wasn't as much as she was doing when she had been doing the couch surfing thing.
Sounds like a fairly typical 17-year-old.
Yeah, I would say so. So 3 weeks before her disappearance, Brianna went to a party. And according to a friend who was interviewed for the episode of Disappeared, Brianna was a loud drunk. And that's not a direct quote. She mostly, like, the way she described it was that, when, like, she was, like, loud and silly. Mm-hmm. Like, she seemed like she was probably a happy drunk.
Yeah.
She liked attention. And that was kind of one of the things that her friends were talking about on the Disappeared episode, even as far as like her changing schools the first time, was that she didn't really fit in, and she didn't, she kind of felt out of place, and she wanted to go somewhere else where she felt like she fit in better.
Understandable.
Right. So she especially liked the attention if it was coming from boys, which again, she's a 17-year-old girl.
Yes.
So, at this particular party, it seemed like she was there with her own boyfriend. She was maybe flirting with another boy, or maybe just said something that was construed as flirting or whatever, but this other boy's girlfriend did not like that.
Right.
This girl's name was, I'm pretty sure she's still around, Keely LaCrosse. She and Brianna were maybe friends or friendly or had used to be friends or whatever teenage girls do. And she got upset, and then Brianna was just like, I'm going to take myself out of the situation. Like, this is silly. And she went out to wait in her boyfriend's truck for him to come out so that he could take her home. Keely comes out of the house and goes and knocks on the window of the truck, and when Brianna rolls down the window, Keely starts wailing on her.
Yeah, that sucks, especially when the other girl was trying to make a decent decision.
Right, like she was just like, I'm getting out of here, and she was there with her own boyfriend. It wasn't, by all accounts, didn't seem like she was trying to take this girl's boyfriend or something, but so yeah, she hit Brianna in the face several times, broke her nose, gave her a concussion. She had to go to the hospital. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that in her youth, Brianna was trained in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So Wikipedia used the term extensively trained. Everything else I watched and listened to did mention that she had been trained in jiu-jitsu. But one thing they don't mention is when she was trained, because it just said in her youth she was trained.
Yeah.
She didn't fight back when Keely was hitting her. And her mom asked her why she didn't fight back, and her response was something like, I was afraid if I fought back, people would be mad and not like me anymore.
Yeah.
Which, again, just, speaks to her, wanting to be liked and accepted. I had initially, when I heard that story, thought that maybe she didn't fight back because people who are trained in martial arts aren't supposed to get into street fights because they're literally, deadly weapons. But the other thing is, I said, I don't know how long ago her training had been.
Because if it was, kiddie jujitsu, I don't know how dangerous she would be.
And I even have written down that, if she was 6 when she was trained in jujitsu, maybe that didn't mean a whole lot 11 years later.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it was, a class for, small children, 1, she may not be practiced anymore, and 2, I don't know how dangerous she would be.
Right. And so, I don't know. Her friend talked her into pressing charges against Keely. And Brianna was initially hesitant because, again, she didn't want to make things worse for herself socially. But she did go ahead and go through with pressing charges. And then we're going to fast forward to the morning of March 19th, 2004, which was a Friday. Brianna was going to take her GED test that day, and her mom picked her up and took her for breakfast. She took her GED. She passed.
Good job.
And to celebrate, she went and had lunch with her mom, Kelly. Her dad, Bruce, was in New York for work. Kelly said that Brianna was happy. She had been talking about applying to colleges now that she was done with her GED. And then they went shopping in St. Albans after lunch, which was Brianna's favorite pastime because, according to her mom, everything looked good on her.
Yeah.
Which must be nice.
It must be nice.
She said that she could, pick, the weirdest stuff out and, go in the dressing room and come back out and, look like a model.
I'm always envious of people like that.
I know.
Who can wear, just whatever.
Yeah. And she was pretty, I don't know if she was really tall, but, taller than me. And then
most people are taller than we are.
Yes. Except maybe 3rd graders.
Yes.
Okay, so...
But, there were some really tall 5th graders.
Yeah, there were.
At 5th grade graduation.
Well, when I first started teaching and I taught the 5th grade, those kids would be like, hey, I'm older than you, or I'm taller than you, and I'd be like, yeah, the kindergartners are too. Yeah. Great job. So,
It's not hard.
Yeah. My mom didn't grow me long enough, I don't think. Bake me long enough. Whatever. Okay. So.
You weren't well done.
I was not. Okay. So they went shopping. While they were shopping, and I guess they were in the checkout line already, Kelly on the episode of Disappeared said that Brianna saw something out of the window of the store that caught her eye and said that she would be right back. And it looked like whatever she saw, like, made her upset. Mm-hmm. And she went outside. And Kelly finished purchasing whatever she was buying and met Brianna in the parking lot, and the vibe had totally shifted, where like before she was happy, like you know, talking about stuff. Now having she was like agitated and like visibly shaken, and she told her mom like, I need to go home and get ready for work. And lots of people like think, you know, like she saw something out the window or a person or something and it upset her. I did read something like right before we started recording it was an interview with one of the private investigators that the family had hired, and he was like, I don't know, he was like, you know, when a 17-year-old girl has been around her mom for a while and is like starts getting irritated because she's been around her mom for like way too long. Yeah. And she also smoked, and her mom didn't approve of her smoking, and he was like, she could have just been like irritated and wanted to go outside and smoke, and you know, just was being a typical moody 17-year-old.
Could be.
But this is kind of like, I don't know, it seems to be something that a lot of people like latch onto because she was fine and then all of a sudden she wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it isn't really clear whether Kelly asked Brianna what was wrong or not, but people have come after this lady in a big way for not asking Brianna what was wrong with her. And, like, again, we're dealing with a 17-year-old girl.
Right.
And so she might have asked and then been told that nothing was wrong, and then just didn't push. Because, again, her daughter was, like, strong-willed and independent enough that she didn't even want to live in her house anymore. She wanted to move out. She might not have asked because she knew that Brianna wasn't going to tell her or that it was going to cause a fight. And she didn't want to ruin the good day that they had been having. It's just so easy for us, I think, as outsiders to judge what people did or didn't do or didn't say or whatever in that moment. And, like, trust me, when we talk about priceless pizza, you're going to hear all of the opinions.
So many opinions.
Oh, so many opinions about that. But aside from Brianna, like, suddenly getting moody, there didn't seem to be any other issues, like, that her mom needed to worry about. You know, like, she was working 2 jobs. She seemed to have a pretty good work ethic. She had just finished her GED. She had a steady place to live. She was talking about college. Like, it didn't appear that her mom had something to worry about other than, like, she suddenly got moody. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. And probably this woman has wondered a bazillion times if something would have happened differently if she had asked. Or if she had pushed.
Well, that's what I was about to say, is that she didn't have foresight.
Right.
And so she probably thought it wasn't really a big deal at the time.
Exactly.
If it even was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it's not like she knew something bad was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, like, you know, the saying is hindsight is 20/20 for a reason. Mm-hmm. Because looking back, you can make all the right decisions.
Yeah. But in the moment, you know.
Yeah. And maybe one thing could have changed it, but maybe it wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah.
So.
Because it could be completely unrelated.
Yeah. So anyway, Kelly dropped Brianna off at home, and this will be the last time that Kelly ever sees Brianna.
That's sad.
Yep. So anyway, Brianna gets ready for work. She writes a note to her friend, roommate Jillian, that she'd be off between 10 and midnight and would be home right after that. And she went to her job at the Black Lantern Inn, and she worked her shift as a dishwasher. Another hindsight story from this time told by Kelly on Disappeared. She said that she and Bruce had been to dinner at another restaurant in the area, and when they were driving home, they had to drive past the Black Lantern, and that Kelly suggested that they go in and say hello, and Bruce was like, that'll probably just embarrass her, and we don't want to, like, make her boss think that her parents need to check on her, and we don't want to embarrass her in front of her bosses and her coworkers or whatever. We'll just talk to her later. And they drove on.
Yeah.
And so they're probably sad and wish they had stopped. But Brianna finished her shift. Her coworkers were talking about sticking around and, like, going out or hanging out or whatever after their shift. The way I initially heard this story is that Brianna told them that she was tired and had to be up the next morning to go to work at her other job and was going to go home and go to bed, and she left. But then, so I listened to a couple of different podcasts about this. There was one called And Then They Were Gone, and then there was another show called Down the Rabbit Holes, and I can't remember which one it was that I was listening to, but they were saying that the earliest newspaper accounts said that she told her coworkers she was planning to take a trip out of town, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence that that was true, because what they found in her car wasn't anything that you would take if you were going on a trip. So Brianna clocks out and she leaves at 11:20 p.m. and that's when she vanishes into thin air.
Okay.
Yep. So Jillian, the friend that she lived with, saw her note on Friday afternoon after Brianna had gone to work, and then Jillian left for the weekend. So she doesn't even know that Brianna didn't come home that night. She gets back home on Monday, and she sees the note is still where she left it, and she thought that was kind of weird, but she dismissed it and thought, maybe Brianna went to spend the weekend at her parents' house.
Yeah.
And one thing that, like, every podcast that I listened to about this and every story I read about this, the thing that just keeps bothering me about this particular part of the story is that Brianna left her note. And I can see her writing the note because we've all, you, me, Mom, we've all written this note a million times. Ran to Allsup's, be right back, or whatever. So Brianna leaves this note. Jillian sees the note, but Jillian doesn't think that she should leave a note saying, hey, I'm going to be gone for the weekend.
Yeah.
Because if Brianna knew she wasn't going to be home,
she wouldn't have
left the note for her. And even if Jillian had, like, made the plan to be out of town after the last time she saw Brianna, like, when she saw that note, she didn't think, I'll just flip it over and write her another note saying, hey, I'm going to be out of town. Like, I know that I am terrible at telling people where I'm at, but I feel like I'd at least give you a heads up if I wasn't going to come home for a couple of days. Like, I know that there are times when you call me at, like, 5 o'clock and you're like, where are you?
Yeah.
Because time has gotten away from me and I'm still at school grading papers. Or I forget to tell you when I'm leaving and then I'm driving into the driveway and you're like, where are you?
Yeah.
But I don't think that I would just, like, take off for days.
Right.
And not tell you where I was. And I know that they're, like, roommates, but they're also friends. So I don't know. There's something about that bothers me every single time I hear it. But anyway. So, Brianna wasn't home on Tuesday. And so Jillian finally calls Kelly, Brianna's mom, and asks if she's there. And Kelly's like, no, isn't she at home with you? And so Kelly starts calling around to Brianna's friends and jobs, and they start to realize that no one has seen Brianna since she left the Black Lantern Inn on Friday nights.
Yeah.
So she called Bruce, who was out of town for work, and he drove home immediately. And Kelly and Bruce go to the police department to file a missing persons report. She was immediately entered into the National Crime Information Center as a missing child because she's 17.
Yes.
And alerts were sent out to all of law agencies. The next day, they considered that Brianna, could have run away. And so she had been really close to her Aunt Tammy, who lived in Pittsburgh. So Kelly called Tammy and got her answering machine. She left a message that said something like, hey, if Brianna shows up at your house, will you call me immediately? And Tammy hears the message and she's just like, Brianna doesn't have any plans to come see me. Like, what's going on? And so she starts trying to call the family back, but she keeps getting busy signals because
they're calling
everywhere, and police
they can possibly think of.
Yeah, so then she turns on the news and sees Brianna's face as a missing person, and so she packs up and drives to Vermont. And so now it's like all hands on deck looking for this girl. On Thursday, Brianna has been missing for almost a week now. Her parents were at the state police headquarters in St. Albans dropping off pictures of Brianna, and I guess they were talking about her car, and so they mentioned that she drove a green 1985 Oldsmobile. And another trooper overheard this, and he was like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I'd like to enter an eye roll emoji here. And he shows them a picture of the car that he went out to check out 5 days ago. Mm-hmm. And so on the episode of Disappeared, Kelly described seeing the picture and feeling like she was going to barf as soon as she saw it. She said that she was instinctively repulsed, and that like it was bad enough to think that Brianna maybe had run away, like to her aunts, or she had dreamed of going to like New York or Toronto or somewhere large because, this was all too small for her. But then like seeing her car and knowing that she was missing without her car kind of like made her know like something bad happened. Right. Bruce was like livid, which is understandable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if they had just run the plates of the car, it would have come back as registered to Kelly. And then they would have notified Kelly and said, hey, your car was found abandoned on this road or wrecked into this house or whatever. And then they could have started looking for her the next day. But instead, now it's a week later, and they're just now finding out that the police have had her car for almost a week.
Yeah.
So that's really irritating. So the brother, Waylon, he figures out where the car has been impounded. And even though the car was left unlocked, the trunk was locked because this is a 1985 Oldsmobile. So it was still when you had to open the trunk with a key.
Right.
And so Bruce crowbars the trunk open because he's scared to death that she's in the trunk of the car that nobody bothered to check.
Exactly.
Luckily-ish, she was not in the car, in the trunk. And I say ish because, like, it would have been so traumatic for this man to find his daughter in the trunk. But on the other hand, at least they wouldn't have spent the last 21 years wondering where their daughter is. So
there'd be some form of closure.
Right. So when Bruce looked through the car, he also found Brianna's contacts and her migraine medication, which are two things that she took with her everywhere. And so along with her uncashed paychecks, this doesn't look like she ran away, because why would she have left behind her money, her medicine, and her car? Yeah. Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Those sound like things that you need to run away.
Right, and a teenage girl running away without her money. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And she wasn't a waitress. So it's not like she had tip money. Like, she was a dishwasher. So, and I don't know what her other job was. Like, I think it was at a restaurant, but literally nothing else that I read or saw, like, mentioned what her other job was, just that she had another job. So searches were conducted, flyers were put up, dogs were brought out to try and track her scent, but there was no sign of Brianna ever found. On March 30th, police finally got around to examining her car for evidence and collected DNA and fingerprints. With the press, some people started coming forward with information about the night the car was abandoned. There was a man who drove by the Dutch burn house between 11:30 and 12:30 that night. And he said that he noticed that the headlights were on, but he didn't see anyone in or around the car. Yeah. Another man who drove by between 12 and 12:30 said that he remembered the turn signal or the hazard lights blinking. And so either the first guy just didn't notice that the lights were blinking, or the second guy thought the lights were blinking. Yeah. Or somebody turned them off. Weirdly, around 4 a.m., one of Brianna's ex-boyfriends happened to drive by. he had been partying in Canada all night and was on his way home. And there are two accounts for this story. The first one is that he said that he thought it might be Brianna's car, but he didn't see anyone around and he just kept driving. The second account, he said that he stopped when he recognized that it was Brianna's car and that the headlights were on and both the driver's and passenger side doors were open, and that he turned off the lights and shut the doors and then drove away.
I don't know. That doesn't sound like the best idea.
No.
You find your ex-girlfriend or your girlfriend's car or whatever empty with the lights on and the doors open, and all you decide to do is shut the doors and turn the lights off.
Yeah. And I don't think that he was ever really considered like a person of interest. I think he was a stupid drunk teenage boy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that that's suspicious. It's just,
stupid.
Pretty stupid.
Yeah. And the next morning, other people thought it was weird to see this old car backed into this old abandoned house and stopped to take pictures. And sadly, these are the only pictures taken of the crime scene because the police didn't seem to have taken any pictures. In some of the pictures, you can see loose change, a water bottle, and a bracelet or a necklace on the ground next to the car. And my thought on this, I personally think that it sounds like someone dragged her out of the car.
Right.
Because I feel like if you just got out of your car and stood up, not all of those things are going to fall out of your car. Like,
but if you're kicking and screaming and being dragged, then...
Yes. And,
the change could have fallen out of her pocket.
Yeah.
The piece of jewelry could have been on her body.
Or, yeah, her feet could have just, like, pulled the water bottle out of the car. Like, to me, that's what that sounds like. And I think that every time I read it, every time I heard it, that's what it sounded like to me. And because there wasn't really any investigation of these things, and I don't even know what happened to the necklace or the bracelet. Like, I don't even know if those things were shown to her parents to say, did these belong to your child, you know? So I just, I think that maybe the police thought that, like, that stuff was already there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's what it sounded like to me. So, again, with the press, the family starts getting other calls. Maura Murray's family called the Maitlands, concerned that there might be some crazy person going around abducting young girls off rural roads in New England.
Yeah.
So the police have said that there is no link between Maura's and Brianna's disappearances, but I don't know what the reasoning was.
I was gonna say, like, how would they know? Like, what is their proof?
I don't know, and we probably won't ever know because police like to keep those kinds of details close to the vest. So I don't think we'll ever know those things. They also were getting ugly phone calls from people who don't have anything better to do than to mess with people who are going through horrific ordeals.
Some people are just terrible people.
Yeah. So one person called and told them that Brianna was tied to a tree in the woods. Somebody else said that she was at the bottom of the lake. One person told them that she had been killed and dismembered and fed to pigs at a local farm. So those are fun phone calls.
Delightful, delightful people.
I don't know what's the matter with people. I don't know why they think that that's funny to do that.
No.
Friends, boyfriends were questioned. Even Keely Lacrosse, the girl who beat her up, had been cleared. Although this girl was mean.
Yeah.
Because even after the fact, one of Brianna's friends that was interviewed on Disappeared said that she had asked Keely, like, what's going on with the charges from, that Keely had pressed, or that Brianna had pressed. And Keely responded kind of like in a smug way, nothing since Brie's not around. Like, guess that's going nowhere.
Yeah.
So, she seemed like she was kind of a butt.
A not nice gal.
But some 17-year-old girls are butts. Alright, theories. So, drugs were having quite the heyday in rural Vermont at this time. Because it's rural Vermont and there's nothing else to do, apparently. So, there were two drug dealers from New York named Ramon Ryans and Nathaniel Jackson who rented a house somewhere in this area of Vermont where these people are. And they would come to town just to sell drugs.
Right.
Because it was good business for In Brianna's partying, she had met and maybe befriended these guys. Jillian said that she remembered Brianna bringing Ramon to the house once. Brianna's friends didn't think that she had a drug problem. Mm-hmm. One of her friends said that Brianna had admitted to smoking pot, which is typical teenage partying things. That she had tried cocaine a few times, and that she had once smoked crack, which not good.
No, not good.
That doesn't necessarily mean that she had a drug problem.
No,
it just means she was 17 and making stupid choices. The Maitlands received a tip that Brianna was being held against her will at an old farmhouse in Berkshire, and police felt that this tip was legitimate enough to warrant a search. When they went to the farmhouse, Ramon and Nathaniel, along with another man and a younger woman, were at the house. They found drugs, drug paraphernalia, and handguns, but there was no sign of Brianna in the house. The 4 were arrested. They all admitted to knowing Brianna, but they all denied having anything to do with her disappearance, which, I mean, even if they did, they were going to say that they didn't.
Who's going to say that they did?
Right. Nathaniel left Vermont afterwards. Ramon moved to Burlington with a woman named Gia Collins, and a few months later, Ramon reported Gia as missing. It turns out that she had been murdered by another woman in what sounds like a drug deal gone wrong. The only reason I even bring that up is because the sister of the woman who murdered Gia claimed that her sister's boyfriend had either helped Ramon and Nathaniel kill Brianna or dispose of her body.
Oh. Yikes.
Yeah, and there had been early reports of a white pickup truck parked near the Dutchburn house the night that Brianna went missing, and the boyfriend of this woman drove a white pickup truck, which, you know, white pickup trucks are everywhere. So,
they're pretty common, but yeah.
But yeah, it just seems weird. The hosts of the podcast, And Then They Were Gone, did a really good job of laying out all of those players and how they fit into the story. So I would suggest listening to their 2 episodes on this case if you want to know more about all of those things. But, I mean, nobody was ever, out of those people, were ever arrested for Brianna's disappearance. Let's see. There was another theory that Brianna owed someone for drugs. A newspaper even reported this with 0 evidence, and then they had to put a retraction and an apology to the family for doing that.
That's ridiculous.
At one point, just like with Maura Murray, Israel Keyes was considered responsible for Brianna's disappearance. Do you remember, like, the only people that he had been actually, like, officially tied to was the girl that he had killed in Alaska, that he had abducted from the coffee shop, and then the couple that he had driven to Vermont to kill with his, like, thing. And so people were like, well, he was active in Vermont. The murder of that couple was in 2011, which was 7 years after Brianna went missing. But I don't know when he was in the area to bury his murder kit, because, you know, he was doing this for years or something. But he was ruled out as a suspect. The police don't think that he actually had anything to do with her. In 2006, security footage from Caesars in Atlantic City showed a woman at a blackjack table that looked remarkably like Brianna Maitland sitting at the table. Her family thought that it was her, but then a tech company cleaned up the footage, and Kelly Maitland said that she was sure that it was not Brianna.
Yeah.
Whoever that woman was, they never identified. They did, I guess, you know, try to say, like, hey, if this is you, could you come forward and let us know who you are? But nobody ever came forward and said. In 2016, the Dutchburn house burned down. In March 2022, Vermont State Police came forward saying that DNA from Brianna's car had been matched to one of the 11 persons of interest in the case, but they didn't ever reveal who that person was, and only, quote, that person has been very cooperative and spoken to us. So, I don't know. Brianna's disappearance has been featured on Disappeared. That was season 4, episode 11, entitled Vanished in Vermont. A private investigator named Greg Overacker wrote a book called The Hunt for Brianna Maitland, The Relentless Pursuit of Answers to One of Vermont's Biggest Mysteries. The Missing Maura Murray podcast, Tim and Lance I don't want to mess up their last name, so I'm not going to say it. They also started a podcast that was called Missing Brianna Maitland. So there is that. If anybody's ever interested in hearing more in-depth information about this case. Bruce Maitland started a foundation called Private Investigations for the Missing, which provides private investigative services free of charge to families who have missing loved ones. Some people are better than me.
Yeah.
It made me cry. Okay, so Brianna Maitland is a white female. At the time of her disappearance, she had brown hair, hazel eyes, was 5'4", and weighed about 105 pounds. So, like I said, not tall, like average, but she was tiny. She had a scar on her forehead near her left eyebrow, and her left nostril was pierced, and she usually wore a stud in it. So, if you have any information on this case, you can contact the FBI's toll-free tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Vermont State Police tip line at 1-844-84-VTIPS. So, VTIPS. And there you go.
All right. Well, that's pretty sad. Like I said last time, disappearances like that always get me. Like, I don't understand how people vanish. Somebody has to know something.
Yeah. Well, and even, like, I guess there's been, I don't know if it was somebody from the FBI or somebody from Vermont State Police or whatever that recently said, like, they don't consider the case to be cold, just unsolved. Mm-hmm. And that, like, it's been long enough. Somebody needs to come forward and tell them what happened. Because somebody knows.
Somebody knows something.
Whether it was these drug dealers or, you know. There was another theory that maybe somebody was hiding. Siri thought I said Siri. I said theory. Go away, Siri.
Siri with a lisp.
Yes. Another theory that maybe somebody had been hiding in the backseat of her car, which is like every female's nightmare.
Oh, yeah. We all check the back seats when we get in our cars.
Not only do I check the back seat of the car, but I am still convinced that every shadow that I see flash behind me is going to be somebody hiding back there. Mm-hmm. Even if I've checked every nook and cranny, I'm convinced that, like, when you pass a street light and, like, the shadow, like, moves, I'm like, that's somebody back there, and I'm going to look in the rearview mirror, and there's going to be a bad guy there.
Yeah.
And so, I guess that's a possibility. I mean, and it also could be tied to these drug dealer people.
Yeah.
Or it just could be some random creep. But I figured that since we talked about Maura Murray and hers happened just a few weeks later, we should talk about her too.
Yeah. I had considered doing a disappearance this week, but I didn't want to do too many disappearances in a row.
I know. I thought about it too. I was actually going to do a cryptid. And then I was like, you know what? I knew that there was another girl who had vanished about the same time in the same area. And that, you know, lots of people try to tie their cases together and wonder if, like, there is some kind of connection or there's some serial killer up there taking girls or whatever. And so I just went with it.
Yeah.
If you're tired of hearing about missing persons, you know, too bad. But yeah, so anyway, maybe we'll do something fun like a cryptid or something next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned more unsavory news about Zach Bagans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess just to add some levity to the episode. So, I don't think they're married, but, like, he's been with Holly Madison for a long time, and she's a Playboy bunny. Apparently, it's come out, like, that he's cheated on Holly Madison with, like, 8 or 9 different women or something, and people are just like, what is the matter with you?
Right.
Like, one Playboy bunny wasn't good enough for you?
No.
And she seems like a perfectly lovely girl.
Yeah.
Like, because when I heard that he was dating a Playboy bunny, I was like, of course he is. And nothing against Playboy bunnies. No. They all seem to be intelligent women.
Yes.
But it's just more of a, like, Zach Bagans stereotype that, like,
Right.
of course, a Playboy bunny would be the woman that he dated. Like, nothing else would be good enough.
No.
But apparently that wasn't even good enough.
No.
What a dummy.
Well, he is a dummy.
Yeah. And then we've got Aaron's wife trying to kill him, and
Yeah.
gosh, the whole Ghost Adventure team is just falling apart.
Just in shambles.
It's in shambles. Oh, well. Anyway. So, anything else you want to add? Now that I've bummed us all out?
There was something I was going to say that I thought about during the podcast, but I have no idea what it was now.
Yeah. Well, if you enjoyed our episode, we would really love it if you would go on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. It helps other people find us.
And we would like for other people to find us.
We would like other people to find us. And if you would like to interact with us, we have social media at Twisted and Mysterious, or you can email us at twistedandmysteriouspodcast@gmail.com. And I think those are all of the places that you can find us. And yeah.
Yeah. I think
Call
that's
us, beep us.
it. If you want to reach us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as always, remember that people are gross and don't get murdered.
Try really hard not to disappear. Okay, bye.
Bye.